It started like any other morning in the marketing office. The air was a familiar mix of coffee, clattering keyboards, and the low hum of conversation. I was hunched over my laptop, trying to make sense of a spreadsheet, when she walked in. Elena, my new project partner. Elena wasn't just confident. She was a force of nature. Sharp, spontaneous, and with an energy that made everyone in the room sit up a little straighter. Our boss thought pairing us up for the new campaign was a brilliant idea. I was the quiet, methodical one, the planner. Elena was the bold, creative spark. A classic case of opposites attract, right? Well, not at first. Honestly, our first few weeks were rough. I thought she was reckless, diving into ideas without a safety net. She thought I was too rigid, stuck in my spreadsheets and afraid to take a risk. We argued over everything from font choices to taglines. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a letter opener. We spent long nights in the office, fueled by lukewarm coffee and takeout, just trying to find a middle ground. But somewhere between the brainstorming sessions and the late-night debates, something shifted. The arguments became passionate discussions. The tension started to dissolve into laughter. We discovered we both had a weakness for bad pizza and cheesy 80 seconds music. I started to see the brilliance in her wild ideas, and she started to appreciate my need for a solid plan. We were finding our rhythm, not just as colleagues, but as something more. I remember one night specifically. We were the only two left in the office, putting the final touches on our big presentation. Rain was streaking down the windows, creating a soft drumming soundtrack. The city outside was a blur of distant lights. Elena leaned in close to point something out on my screen, and her perfume, a subtle mix of something warm and citrusy, mingled with the scent of old coffee. My heart did this ridiculous little flip. I could barely focus on the pie chart she was pointing at. She pulled back and gave me a teasing look. "Do you ever stop working, Maya?" Her eyes were sparkling in the dim light. I managed a small smile. "Someone has to make sure your wild ideas actually make sense on a PowerPoint slide," I replied. She let out a soft laugh, but her gaze lingered on me a little longer than usual. "You know," she said, her voice dropping a little, "you're different when you smile. You should do it more often." The room went completely still. The only sound was the rain against the glass. I tried to think of something clever to say, but my mind was blank. And then, before I could even form a thought, she reached out and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from my face. It was such a small, simple gesture, but it sent a jolt right through me. Her fingers were so warm against my skin. "Elena," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Her own voice was even softer, almost trembling. "I shouldn't," she murmured, "but I can't help it." And then, she closed the small space between us. Her lips met mine, and it was everything. It was slow and uncertain at first, a question more than a statement. But then it deepened, filled with all the unspoken tension and a surprising tenderness that had been building between us for weeks. The world outside, the deadlines, the spreadsheets, it all just faded away. There was only the warmth between us, the sound of the rain, and the soft, steady glow of the computer screen. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathless. I looked into her eyes, trying to make sense of what had just happened. "We're coworkers," I managed to say, my voice shaking. A faint, beautiful smile touched her lips. "I think," she said softly, "we're a little more than that now." The next day at the office was an experience. We tried so hard to be normal, to be professional. We talked about analytics and market shares, but it was all a performance. Every time our eyes met across the conference table, there was this secret little spark. Every time our fingers brushed when passing a file, it felt like an electric shock. It was our secret, hidden in plain sight. After that, working late became our code. We'd find any excuse to stay behind after everyone else had gone home. "We need to revise the campaign strategy. Let's do one more run-through of the presentation." But we both knew the real reason. The quiet, empty office became our sanctuary. Our love story was written in shared coffees, whispered jokes in the break room, and secret smiles during boring team meetings. I found myself opening up in a way I never had before, and I saw a softer, more vulnerable side of Elena that she kept hidden from everyone else. Finally, launch day arrived. The campaign was a huge success, bigger than any of us had dared to hope. The office was buzzing with celebration. Champagne corks were popping, people were cheering, and our boss was giving us all a pat on the back. Amid all the noise and chaos, my eyes found Elena's from across the room. We shared a look, a silent victory that was just for us. It wasn't just about the successful project. It was about us. It was about having the courage to find something real in the most unexpected place. Later that night, after the celebration had died down, we walked together through the cool city air. The streetlights cast a warm glow around us. Elena reached out and took my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. "We make a pretty great team," she said, her voice full of warmth. I squeezed her hand and smiled, a real, genuine smile. "At work," I said, "and maybe everywhere else too." As we walked on, with the city lights shimmering all around us, our hands stayed locked together. It felt like a promise, a quiet promise of something real, something worth the risks we were taking. In that moment, looking at her, I knew with absolute certainty that I hadn't just found a brilliant project partner. I had found the person who saw me, who understood me, and who loved me, just the way I was. And that was a success far greater than any marketing campaign. Thank you so much for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories like this one. It really helps me out, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Take care.